Hey there, amplifiers. When it comes to amplifying your business, you've got to have the right mindset. You got to be empowered and you got to be able to speak up to bring your vision into reality. And our guest today really has mastered how to get people lit up to take new actions and achieve new results. She is the president and founder of Jamie Empowers. And I'd like to welcome her to the Growth Amplifier podcast. Welcome, Jamie Dandar.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for having me here.
Now, we had the opportunity to connect a couple of weeks back, and I was really just struck by your story. You have an amazing story. And, sometimes people just get inspired and they say, hey, this is something I want to do. And sometimes people go through something that really gets them to shift their trajectory and take new actions. And that really fuels them to make change for not only their lives, for the lives of many others. So if we could start off just by setting the stage and sharing, how did you get started on your journey?
Yes. Great question. So I have worked in heavily male-dominated industries, or had worked for 20 years. I started off my career in automotive, where I was the third woman to join a team of 400. I was the youngest by, on average, 20 years. First job out of college, so no real business experience other than internships. And I hadn't grown up in the automotive industry, so I couldn't regale stories of, running around in pigtails in grandpa's shop or anything like that. And so if we were playing the game, which one of these things is not like the others, I was the one that stood out over and over again. And when the other members of the team also realized that with my college degree, I was being groomed to move up quickly, you can only imagine the resistance that came at me. And being my first job, I just kind of thought, well, this is how the business world is. I was a little naive in that. And so I thought, well, I'm me. I can't really change who I am and what I'm doing. And so I just led and carried myself with confidence. And that was my secret weapon, in some cases to not get eaten alive, and then in other cases to move even beyond survival, but to thrival. And I didn't even consciously know that at the time. I mean, it was really a few years into it before I kind of took pause to say, how is this working? Because I'm still one of the only females. I'm still one of the youngest ones. I've gained, industry knowledge and such, but definitely not like the others, but it was working.
Right.
And that was how it all started.
Now, you're being able to probably relate with a lot of women that, are maybe going into different industries. And like it or not, we live in a society and a culture where there is sexism, where there are people that maybe exclude or treat people differently because of their gender or their background. Mm-hmm. And even for people that, may be aware, like myself, I'm aware that it's there. Sometimes you don't realize the big impact that has, or little differences that may be plugged into your background that you're not even aware that how it's influencing you in your decisions.
Right.
So how can people get a sense of just how insidious this could be in their everyday lives?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think what you just described is the cognitive bias, right? That,
right.
We grow up with these filters and these things that we're exposed to that are just so normal to us. We don't realize that others aren't like that. And the differences are not necessarily a good or bad or right or wrong. They're different. And the curiosity and confidence go hand in hand. So when you find yourself on the other side of the table from someone and you seemingly have nothing in common and you're speaking very different language, you can go one of two routes, right? You can just remain frustrated and kind of silent and shun the communication, or you can embrace that and create a safe space and say, hey, I think you come from something very different than what I do, but I'm really curious to learn what that is. And, to start to unpack that and talk about it and use your differences as a strategic advantage rather than something where you just shut down and no one benefits. But it takes that awareness, like you said initially, and then the curiosity behind it.
You have the awareness, and then you have a plan, and you could take a new action. You could look at it differently and achieve a totally different result, a different outcome. And then I really feel like that is one of the things that really can help people become empowered, right?
Yeah,
Is
100%.
they look at it differently and they take a new action. And we discussed on our last call, and I said, I hope I don't start any sort of uh, conflict here. But I said sometimes I connect with females that maybe are speaking about empowerment, and I talked about sometimes in my mind I could see that is could be potentially a limiting way of people viewing it. It depends on, again, how you position it and how you frame it. Because if you're thinking you have to be empowered, it's almost like you're putting yourself in a victim role. But you had a very nice way of illustrating the difference in how you approach it that I thought was really incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's a humility piece to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There because you can empowerment, confidence, cockiness, arrogance. There can be a fine line
Right.
among those different words. But empowerment, I mean, it's inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Everybody wins when you're empowered, and when you're truly confident. One of the it's just interesting when you're truly confident, you feel no need to put others down. Anytime you have to put somebody else down thinking that you're lifting yourself up, you're only highlighting one of your own insecurities.
Mm.
Whereas if you can speak about that with humility and say, hey, here's my strength, but here's my weakness, how can we complement each other's efforts? And that takes some humility to do that, right? But in doing it, you're creating a foundation for so much more strength. And there's also an inward outward focus with it as well, because the arrogance trends more to a selfish perspective, whereas the confidence translates into more of a, yes, it's me, but it's also you. It's us in this together.
Right. So it's really coming from a holistic way to approach things moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's great. It's just getting in the mind frame that I don't need to improve. I just need to continue to move, being me. Looking at,
Definitely.
um, love it. And now you've facilitated many workshops. You do a lot of speaking events, and you really provide a lot of transformation. Could you highlight some of the things that you've done and some of the transformation that you've helped to accomplish?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So year to date, we've had over 2,000 people participate in the Empower Hour series workshops. There's a variety of topics within there. I love hearing the transformational stories afterward. And my goal is that transformation. My goal is not that we sit on a Zoom call for an hour and I talk and you listen and you're probably checking email at the same time. No, no, no. It's very engaging, it's very interactive, and at the end of the workshop I want you to experience true transformation. And so that takes some communication outside, testing some things, participating in the challenges that are meant to complement your current efforts and do it this way, not that way. And one example just to share is I had a woman who was on the full workshop, which spans the course of 5 days. It's 1 hour per day, so pretty bite-sized chunks. And she said, Jamie, she's in the mortgage industry. I used to end my day thinking about all the things that went wrong,
Mm,
or all the places where all the mistakes I made, or all the things where I screwed up. Now I look at my day, I review what went right, what I did well, and what I'll do better next time. So you think about that second example, how much more powerful and empowering that
right.
is to, pat yourself on the back for what you did well, but also to acknowledge, hey, here's where I can improve. Words matter, thoughts become things. And if you're constantly telling yourself, I did this, this, and this wrong, well, you're setting yourself up to just continue doing wrong things. However, if you're saying, acknowledging, giving yourself grace for saying, hey, I did these things right. And then, you know what, this is what I'll do differently next time. And then it's more like an invitation, like, cool, I get to try this again and do better. I get to just beat my own benchmark, which is great.
And I can only imagine that if you're looking at different areas of how you can improve upon, for business owners who are looking to grow their business, just how impactful that could be. Because a lot of what we do is reflected on our attitude, our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not giving ourselves the right grace or empowerment, right, then we may be hesitant to take an action or move something forward or try to launch something.
Yes.
What do you see as the biggest challenge, the most common theme that you see a lot of people suffering with or having as an obstacle?
Well, there's a few. One that immediately comes to mind is who is surrounding you and what influence are they having on you? Now, true confidence comes from being centered in self and knowing that you and you alone validate your confidence. However, that ebbs and flows depending on what's going on in your life. The more personal or professional challenges you have, that can really wither away at confidence. And that's when it's that much more important to be surrounded by the people who will lift you up, not bring you down, who want to celebrate your success, not get a kick out of your victory. And so being very intentional, not just about the people that physically surround you or digitally, but also on social media. Who are you following? What influences, what shows? I mean, just all those things that you're being exposed to, they're moving the needle for you one way or another. So being intentional around what voices are you hearing, because we're processing those probably more than we realize, and strategically choosing ones that are lifting you up and pumping you up, not the ones that are bringing you down or causing you to compare yourself to something that's just not going to serve you in a higher way.
I do like that thought, because when we're tuning into something, as you mentioned, we're basically absorbing it, and we're basically computers, right? So we're creating our own reality in a sense of
Mm-hmm.
what we understand the world to be, depending on what we tune into, view, and give attention. And even if we don't fully believe it, it still has an impact. It still has an influence. You could see right now that our country, as we're going into this election day, right,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of divisiveness, and a lot of that could be explained because of people are going into different social media channels. They're hearing only one side of the story. It's
Mm-hmm.
very supporting certain beliefs that they have, and so that it's going to move them in one direction or the other, regardless of which political side you may lean into. Chances are there's more reality in the center than there is on any far extreme.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad to hear. You hear a lot of times. I don't want to get into a political show here, but I
It
think
is
it's a
election day, but
yeah, it is election day. It is important to realize that even if you're not believing, or if you're just looking at things or just kind of checking it out, that everything does have some sort of influence. And when you continue to surround yourself with people that are either empowering you and inspiring you and energizing you, or maybe some things that may be bringing you anxiety or losing your confidence or distracting you from what's really important.
yeah. And
It
it's
all has
kind
impact.
of, I sometimes I describe it as the carbon monoxide poisoning of your confidence, because it's silent. You can't, I mean, it's unless you create awareness around it, you won't even know. And you'll just have these days where you're like, why am I feeling like this? And it's because something's withering away at your confidence. And to your point, Kenny, I actually want to ask you a question because you made me think of something. Are you familiar with the documentary? It's called What the Bleep Do We Know?
What the bleep do we know? I
Yes.
have not seen that documentary, but it
I
sounds
believe
interesting.
it came out in 2004. It had a different name, but they changed out the word for marketing purposes, and you can, connect the dots on that one. It's all about the power of your thoughts and quantum physics. It's incredibly powerful. I recommend, finding it on YouTube, but there was a section of it that I have thought about many, many times since I originally saw it. They were talking about when Christopher Columbus ships were coming on shore, or coming up to shore, and I hope I'm saying the right term, the Native Americans, the people who are indigenous to the land, were looking out at the water. They had never seen ships before, and in their mind, they couldn't see the ships, but they noticed a change in the ripples in the water because that's what they knew. They didn't know that ships existed. That wasn't in their consciousness. But they saw those differences in the ripples in the water. Now, most of us today would see the ships, but not be able to recognize the differences in the ripples, right?
Right.
they were seeing they were seeing the difference, but in a much different way.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not necessarily a right or wrong or good or bad, just different. So having that awareness, like you're saying, on the political spectrum or anything really, that there's more than one viewpoint here, like staying out of that myopic side of things is really going to keep you in that curious space to again lead to the creativity and the confidence rather than the frustration.
I think that was very well spoken and intriguing. It seems like a very interesting documentary.
Yeah, if you want a mind blown, like sit on the couch and zone out like that, what the bleep do we know? We'll check that box for you.
Definitely look into that one. And I really like the concept too that you're sharing for people to pay attention to just what they're plugging into. And overall, is it empowering or not? Does
Hmm.
it bring the right energy? Is it a good value of time? Speaking of which, so for people who are tuned in, what's something that they could do or begin doing with an action that they may be able to take to start having that shift, to changing that trajectory? What's a
Hmm.
good first action, a good first step?
Good first step. One thing I would invite people to do is think about their confidence as if it were a currency.
Mm.
Similar to your bank account. You know, your bank account has your name on it, you have the password, you make decisions about it, how to grow it, how to invest it, how to spend it. And when you think about your confidence in these same terms, you realize that that balance is yours to protect. And, you know, just like, I mean, I trust you, Kenny, but I wouldn't really like hand you my debit card and be like, here's my PIN, go take what you want, right?
Right.
We wouldn't do that with our confidence either. Yet, that will happen sometimes instead of give them my password to my confidence either, because that confidence is the foundation upon which my decisions are made. So many things happen when you have confidence to move forward. Not much happens when you just stay stuck in your comfort zone. So I would say that would be one first step, is just to invite in that mindset of protecting your confidence and investing it the same way you would money in your bank account.
I think that's awesome. You've got to invest in yourself. I was sharing with another, I was actually on someone else's podcast. There's an attorney, and we were
Mhm.
talking about, what I did as a business advisor. And I said, I practice what I preach. I was telling him that I had invested in another marketing advisor that morning. And I said, it's a kind of a challenge sometimes from an ego perspective to maybe invest in something to help yourself. You think, I could do this. I don't necessarily need help, right?
Mhm.
But I said, I'm very confident from being a marketing advisor, but I realize that everyone has their own blind sides. Everyone has the benefit of being able to see someone else's perspective and get assistance. And when you can take what you already have and have someone else complement it, then you could be that much more powerful. And so, even though that's what I do, I've matured enough to realize it's helpful to make an investment in your personal growth and get fresh perspective and get new tools and resources. So, for example, you've got a lot of great programs and workshops. So, for people who have learned a little bit about you and want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Where can they go? Well, the easiest place to find me is on my website, jamieempowers.com, which is JAMIE. A lot of resources on there. There's some freebies. You can look up the workshops. You can see the different topics. There's videos. Uh, you can also follow me on social media. Instagram and LinkedIn are where I spend the most of my time. So Jamie Dandar McKinney on LinkedIn, and then Jamie_empowers on Instagram.
Super cool. So, is there a first step or recommended workshop or guide that you would suggest to check out first?
So I recently just launched, you're the first one actually that I'm announcing this in publicly, Kenny, a free online mini course. probably a 15-minute investment of your time. The title of the course is The 5 Secret Gifts of Confidence, What Professional Women Know. Gentlemen, you're welcome to take part in it as well. But that would be a great place to start. That'll give you 5 gifts and 1 tip to cultivate your own. And then once you complete the course, you'll be given a link to a special offers page and some other freebies. And it's a great place to start our relationship.
I love it. So go there, jamieempowers.com, check it out. And while we're wrapping our thoughts here, what is a lesson that you've learned on your journey that you can share with others on their journey that has been really helpful, that may help others on their path?
Yes. Focus when you find yourself in a place where you're going through a rough patch, your confidence is getting rattled, you're not feeling like your highest self. Take some time to focus on your superpowers. And what I mean by that is, what are the 3 things that you are, or one thing that you are really good at doing? You are the go-to person for it. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, when this thing comes up, like, yep, give it to Kenny, give it to Jamie, right? They've got this. Spend some time in that, because there is a reciprocity that happens between when you're working on your superpower and your performance, that both are fueling your confidence, and it's kind of this virtuous cycle. And things that you're not good at doing, just kind of put those off to the side for a little while. So really honing in on that strength, that will get you back up there.
I love it. We'll take a deep breath and feel good about that. Feel energized, feel empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to speak out your ideas, if you want to empower yourself to take new actions and achieve new results, go to jamieempowers.com. Take her up on her free 15-minute challenge. It's worth looking to get some new ideas. And if all you did was gain one idea to give you more energy, more focus, or clarity, it'd be totally worth it. Highly recommend
Usually
it.
all it takes just one.
Just one. So thank you, Jamie. I appreciate having you on. And if you're tuning in, make sure not just to listen here today, make sure to do something actionable, take new actions, and achieve new results. Thank you very much, and look forward to catching you on the next session.
Thank you, Kenny.
To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.